Hello, friends. I hope you're out wandering through nature, exploring the natural world around you. Do you enjoy writing about your wanderings? Nature journaling is an awesome, fun way to remember all the adventures you have taken and how you felt during those journeys. If you're looking for some beautiful journals to keep track of all your wanderings, I have several available on Amazon, including some guided journals for children. Start your journey in journaling by clicking on the link in the show notes. Keep exploring the nature around you and keep journaling all your wanderings. Hello, friends. I'm Paul, and yes, this is the Nature Wanderer podcast. And today I am just outside of the village of East Aurora. That's East Aurora, New York. I'm actually in the town of Aurora. It is a beautiful area that I'm in. I'm at Majors Park, which is just outside of the village, like I said, on Olean Road. And it was donated many years ago by Mr. Majors, who was a friend of my father's, as a matter of fact, and it was kind of exciting when I found out he donated his land to the town of Aurora so that they could have it used as a park and keep it natural. They built a path on this side of the park. It's actually, the Majors Park is divided in two. It's divided in half. So you've got this side of Cazenovia Creek, which runs down kind of the middle of the park. And this side has a nice groomed path going along, and it has a boardwalk so you can walk through the swampy area without doing any damage to the swampy area. A lot of people bring their dogs over here. And then there is the other side of the creek, which is mostly on a hill. There was an old cabin up there, which I believe they recently demolished, which has a little more history for me. I had some friends who rented that cabin on the other side of the park. And the cabin, I guess, was built by Albert Hubbard, which has a lot of fame in the East Aurora area with the arts and craftsman movement. But I don't want to get into a lot of that history, but the cabin had a lot of history to me because I spent a lot of time there. And for a short period in my, I think it was my late teens, early 20s, I did live there for a few months with my friends. So I do remember that it was a lot of fun times up there. Back then I wasn't as into nature as I am now. I recall one night I used to have a bedroom up in a loft at the cabin, and I was laying there with the window open because it was a gorgeous summer evening, and I recall hearing these sounds coming from the cabin, or from the woods, sounds coming from the woods, and it really startled me awake, and I'm like, what on earth is this? And I realized what it was, not at first. I mean, it sounded like a screaming child in the woods, and I'm like, should I be calling the police and letting them know? It's like some child is being murdered in the woods here. And it was actually a fox, which I learned much later. I mean, if I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, now that I understand nature and I'm into nature more, I would have known that. But I mean, in my younger years, it was all about having fun, being with friends, getting girls, the usual teenage, young adult stuff, and trying to find a job and, combining everything together. So that's what it was all about then. So I really, even though I enjoyed nature, I enjoyed being in nature, I enjoyed being outdoors, I enjoyed hiking. Nature was not a big thing for me. It really wasn't. And that's true with most people that age. At least I feel it is. And nature kind of grew into me. I mean, as a kid, I was always out camping with the family, camping with my parents. We had a great time doing these things. But it was also like, as soon as I got back, it's like, oh, yeah, computers were new back then. And I loved computers. I loved the computer programming and, doing neat stuff on a computer. So that was what I was doing, is, spending my days on the computer. Now I'm always yelling at the kids to get off the computer, get outdoors. So things change. So anyhow, I'm walking along here. You probably heard my camera click. I haven't been to this section, this park, I should say. I haven't been to this park in a while. It's been maybe a year. I don't come here in the winter much. I should try. It's probably very nice in the winter, but I'm noticing some changes here. There's some fresh beaver chew on one of the trees. And it looks, I'm not sure why, but it looks like the town came through with some sort of weed whacker. I don't know if they're trying to keep it from overpowering the trail, but it looks like all these small shoots were just hacked down. They left the big trees, of course, but not sure why they did that. Maybe it was flooding issue, maybe it was, I don't know, I'm not even going to try to figure it out, but it's a beautiful park here, great for birding. I love coming here and doing some birding. And I'm listening right now. I've had blue jays fly over. I'm hearing the song sparrow. Crow is calling in the distance. I got a robin right in front of me on the trail here. He's like 20 feet away, and he could care less that I'm here. They're probably used to a lot of people walking along here, and he knows I'm not going to bother him. He senses my calm nature energy. I'm only like 5 feet away from him, and just hopping along on the ground, getting breakfast. Yeah, getting some of the bugs and worms. Had really moist soil in the springtime here, so he's just getting some worms out of that saturated soil. You got some grapevines climbing up the trees here. So I just got to the boardwalk, and this is going to take me over to the swampy area. It does get a little wet in this area where I am, which is why they put the boardwalk in. Honestly, in my opinion, they probably could have held off on the boardwalk for another probably 50 feet before they started building it. But I don't know, that's all right. Maybe it does get wetter here in certain years. I mean, underneath the boardwalk right now it is kind of wet. But this is a good place. You can see, besides just birding, I'm going to be quiet here so you can hear the birds. It's a cardinal calling. And there are a lot of different birds here. But it's also a good mix of habitats. You've got a small stream going through on my left here, which runs into Cazenovia Creek, which is a larger creek. And then on my right, there's a swampier, big old massive willow here. Looks like a black willow. And not widow, not a spider, no, black willow, willow tree. It's just massive, and the branches are just kind of coming out all over, and there's a swampy area right behind it and almost all around it. It's almost on its own little island. So lots of different habitats. And as I'm looking, because it's early spring, the leaves are not on the trees yet, and I can see across to the other boardwalk. This goes in the big circle, this boardwalk, and beyond that there's a house right there. So we are in a residential area, like I said, just outside of the village of East Aurora. So you do have residential area. They actually made a trail from South Street in East Aurora going over to the preserve here so that people can just walk over here. They do have a parking area, which is where I parked. There's some benches here. There's a couple of robins on the ground over in this grassy area to my left. The buds are starting to open on the trees. This one here has quite a few buds. I can tell that this lower branch is dead because there's no buds on it, but lots of buds on the rest of the tree. The honeysuckle, lots of honeysuckle in here. Invasive introduced species to the area. If you've ever seen a honeysuckle, it gets these little white flowers on it, and then later in the summer it'll get these red berries. So the flowers turn into the berries, but in the springtime you get these little white flowers. And those white flowers, if you plucked one off and you sucked on the small end of it, it would taste like honey. I mean, obviously it's not honey, it's nectar that you're tasting. But that's where the name honeysuckle came from. At least that's my understanding of it. Honeysuckle, it was introduced. It was actually encouraged by the government many years ago. I'd have to look up the time period, but many years ago, when the government was trying to get farmers and people more involved in nature to help nature, they figured, well, we've got these plants that produce berries that the birds will like. So they planted them, not thinking like we do today about invasive species and introduced species and keeping things natural. No, they just were like, hey, it's going to encourage wildlife to come here. So that's what they did, is they introduced this honeysuckle, not realizing there's no predators to keep it under control, to keep it in check. So it just went nuts. I know on my property I have a lot of honeysuckle, and every several years I will come along with a brush hog and brush hog my field, just to keep it into a field habitat for the birds. But the honeysuckle, if I didn't do that, it would go nuts. It would go crazy. It would fill my whole field. I don't do anything with my front field at my property, mostly because I like the privacy that it offers me. My house is 400 feet off the road, and with the honeysuckle creating kind of a blockade fence, you know, it gives me a lot of privacy. So I leave the front natural, and it's like almost all honeysuckle. It gets tough to walk through it at times. But introduced, doesn't belong here. I also have a lot of multiflora rose on my property. I don't see any here. I'm sure there is. But I'm walking by an area on the boardwalk here where there's this tree and huge grapevine. It's got to be like, I'm going to say maybe 4 inches in diameter. It looks like someone cut the bottom of it. I guess they didn't want it to grow anymore. I don't know why, but we're supposed to be keeping this natural. I have to look up and see what the stipulations were in getting this and what the intent of the town is. Whether it's just to create a natural area where people can walk, or whether they're trying to preserve things. Because if they're preserving it, they shouldn't have cut back there, and they shouldn't have cut these grapevines. But anyhow, the tree is just covered in grapevines, and that can kill a tree. I mean, you have all these grapevines. If you've ever seen a leaf on a grape, a wild grape plant, they're huge and they're blocking the sunlight. which in turn means that the tree can't produce photosynthesis on its own because it has no sunshine hitting the leaves. It's got these grape leaves just creating a canopy over the tree, blocking all that sunlight. And on the other side, we've got this gorgeous tree. I can't tell what type it is from where I am, and I don't want to go off the boardwalk. It's a little swampy through they do have a trail in this area going kind of parallel with the boardwalk, and that's where the tree is, and so I can't get over to it, but anyhow, that tree has all this moss, very bright green moss, almost like a fairy garden moss. And it just covers the tree. It's just beautiful. So it's a nice little park back in here. It is quiet. You do get a lot of the locals coming in here and using it for walking. I mean, I've been in here and had joggers go running past me. People just walking, enjoying the day. People walking their dogs. It is a well-used park. But you get the right time, like early morning, midweek, and there is nobody here, or very few people. Yeah, lots of grapevine. It does look like the town came through here, too, with a brush hog, and it actually brush hogged the grapevine on this tree, and I don't know why they're doing that. Maybe they're worried it's going to, overpower the boardwalk. I don't know, but to me, that's nice. It keeps it more natural, makes it more natural feeling, more natural looking. Very swampy area that I'm in right now. So I don't even know how they got it over here with the mowers. But there's an area here that I am going to go off of the boardwalk. There's a small trail that goes off to the side here. And it's a little bit wet, so I'm going to watch my step, but this will take me over to Cazenovia Creek. And when I get down to the creek, oh yeah, nice and soggy morning here. So yeah, this trail is going to be a little wet and muddy, I think, until I get up the trail a little ways. You can probably hear my feet sloshing in the mud. Another tree here, a dead branch fell off, tree split in half, and the dead branch that's laying parallel with the ground, horizontal, is just covered in moss. And we've got, you might be able to hear some vehicles in the background. So we do have, like I said, we're close to the town. Okay, now that I'm off of the boardwalk, I'm seeing lots of vines in this area, and those vines aren't cut. So I think they're just trimming to keep, the boardwalk open so that they can mow up there so it doesn't get overtaken. But hey, like I said, in my opinion, let nature take its course. But humans, we like to groom things. We always like to keep things well groomed so that it looks pretty and everyone can use it. And nature is supposed to be for the animals, for us, for everybody. We have a connection with nature, which I'll talk about in another episode. So I'm coming to where this trail intersects another trail, which goes along, just saw a larger bird there. Couldn't tell what it was, though. I flew too quickly. So I'm at Cazenovia Creek now, which is flowing pretty nicely here. The water's high. It is spring. We've had some rainy days, and we just had some, believe it or not, snow. We had some snow, and all that melted, so that's causing even more of this melt. I don't know if you heard that. Red-tailed hawk, just heard. And there's a old dead tree here with some woodpecker holes in it. Oh, that reminds me. Just got an email this morning from a friend of mine. If you're listening, Renee, here's your answer. I'll also answer your email. I just didn't have a chance to earlier. She was asking me, she said that she's had a lot of woodpeckers at her house. And a friend of hers has even more woodpeckers at her house. Now, she said pileated, or if you want to call it pilated, tomato, but I don't think they are pileated. And the only reason I say that is because usually pileated, you won't find a lot in one area. So it's probably like downy or hairy, but I don't know. I haven't seen them. Hopefully she'll take a picture and send it to me. But anyhow, she was worried that they're doing damage to the trees. She said that at her friend's house, the woodpeckers, and they're, pecking holes in a lot of the different trees there. And she said that there is a big hole in one of her trees. She said it doesn't seem to be damaging the tree. And whenever I hear this a lot. People are worried about the woodpeckers. I mean, if they're pecking at your house, that's an issue. But if they're pecking at the trees, that's what they do. That's how they get their food. Speaking of which, I just heard a woodpecker. Hopefully it's a pretty good mic. I'm sure you're picking all this up, all these sounds in the background. But anyhow, back to the woodpeckers. If you have woodpeckers at your house and they're pecking on the trees, there's insects in that tree. Okay, they're not just going to come along. I shouldn't say all woodpeckers, but most woodpeckers, they're not just coming along and deciding, oh, there's a good tree to peck. Let's just, go. No, they're usually hearing some sort of insect underneath the bark. And so they peck the hole to get into where the insect is. Other times they're trying to make a nest, but usually if there are insects in that tree, enough where a woodpecker is going to start pecking at it, what that usually means is there's an infestation of insects. The tree may be sick. It could be dying. So I'm going to tell her, and this is, if you have the same issue, this is what I'll tell you. Is the crows calling? Maybe if you're that concerned about it, get a tree expert in. See if the tree is diseased. And that way you can see, is this why the woodpeckers are pecking at it? If they're creating such a havoc to one tree, there's an infestation of insects, and that tree is probably diseased, dying, and the insects are starting to do their work at turning it back into compost, into soil. And speaking of trees, back where the creek does a turn, and there's a couple of really big old sycamores here. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 big old sycamore trees here. Absolutely love sycamore trees. One of my favorite trees. The bark is kind of peeling. The way to remember it is look at me, all covered in sores. If I don't get better soon, I'll be sick more. Yeah, that's just an old rhyme that I heard many years ago. Hanging from the tree here. That's too bad. We have to let them know. There's a piece of plastic hanging here, and the lid is broken off, so it's filled with water, filled with a piece of paper, and and my guess is this is a geocache that I just found. If you haven't listened to my geocaching episode, go find that. This is like the third time that I've found a geocache without a GPS and not looking for geocaches. But anyhow, so big old sycamores, absolutely love them. I mean, these guys are quite old in here, which is nice that they just leave them to do their thing. Now along the edge here, more willows. Now along the edge of the stream, we're going to turn around here soon because I know the trail is going to end in a little while here, not too much further up here, and I'm right in the back of the development on South Street, and I'm not even sure what street comes down off South Street. That's where the development is. There's another small park on South Street also that goes down to the creek here. So the creek is turning once again. So I'm getting to that point where, and the trail isn't bad here. It's actually fairly dry. I really do encourage you, get back here, you know, or if you're not in this area, you know, find a small park in your area. Just go out and take a hike and enjoy the outdoors. Gorgeous morning, best time to do birding. Get out early in the morning. A little swampy here, so I gotta watch my step. Anyhow, I don't know if I'm getting past this area. Got a little stream going through. I'm gonna have to turn around and go back. We'll try. We'll try here. Oh. I'll keep recording so that if I fall in, you guys can laugh at me. Okay, yeah, see this I believe is a loop, so it should take me back to my original spot. So anyhow, yeah, I didn't really have a topic for today. I just wanted to get out and explore someplace new that you haven't been and just talk about nature in general. So I hope you are enjoying learning about the different aspects of just hiking and walking through an area. Grapevines, more grapevines, yeah. I mean, these are wild grapes, don't get me wrong, these are wild grapes. They're not the type where you can make wine out of or, you know, have a nice sweet grape for dessert. No, these are wild grapes. And wild grapes, they are edible, but they're a little more, I don't know, sour, bitter. They're not as sweet as the type of grapes that are grown commercially. The grapes are usually smaller, so you're not going to get some huge grape. You're going to get some small grape instead. So I'm going to say not something you really want to be harvesting. Just let them be and let the wildlife enjoy. Okay, so this is the point I wanted to get to. Took a little bit to get to this point, a little swampy in this area. Gotta head back to the boardwalk in a minute. There in front of me is the main swamp, and lots of willows out in the swampy area along the edge, and but there's cattails in here, lots of cattails. It's good to see that the Phragmites doesn't seem to have taken a hold in this area, which is another introduced species. So you've got mostly cattails in here. That's a nice big swampy area. So like I said, lots of different habitats here, mostly wooded, a little bit open, and then you have the swamp in the middle. So I'm going to start heading back towards the boardwalk through this swampy area. I hope I'm not discouraging you from coming here. Remember, it's spring, we've had a lot of rain, snow melt. Normally when I come here in the middle of summer, the trails are really pretty dry. So feel free to come here and explore while the trails are dry in the summer. So I hope you enjoyed just going for a casual walk with me today. I'm going to encourage you to get out and hike in your own neighborhood. And I'm going to wrap it up for the day. So I hope you, if you haven't yet, please, I can't ask this enough, invite a friend along. I'd love to get more people exploring nature with me, exploring nature with us. Hoping this summer, if you live in my neck of the woods in the Northeast here, I'm hoping to do some public programs. Oh man, this tree here, I just came to a tree, sorry to interrupt my thought here, but it's got probably about a dozen woodpecker holes at eye level to me, and you can see inside that the tree is pretty rotted. I'm not seeing any buds. Oh, actually it does have buds up above, so it's not totally dead, but it is dying. I mean, it's split. There's a big gash in the side of it at about waist level to me, and the whole inside is just rotted out. So it's a sick tree, which is why the woodpeckers are there, because there's insects in there. So anyhow, bring more people to enjoy wandering through nature with me, and rate and review. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you haven't done so yet, don't forget that I do have a nature challenge for you, so feel free to take the challenge and see if you can get out and explore nature every single week. It's not a difficult challenge. Check it out on the website. I have a link to it in the show notes. So always check out the show notes. Lots of links, lots of information, extra information. And above all, keep exploring the nature around you. Have a great day. Did you know that plastic is made with oil, a fossil fuel that pollutes the environment? And did you know that only about 15% of all plastic is recycled into new products? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could live our lives without plastic so that we could stop harming the planet? Well, there's a company that wants to help you do just that. Life Without Plastic sells products that will reduce or eliminate your dependence on plastic. They have a large selection from toothbrushes to food storage containers to drinking straws, all plastic free. And it's reasonably priced. So what are you waiting for? Check out all these great plastic-free products and help save the planet. Just click on the link in the show notes to find out more and to start your journey to being plastic-free.